Okay, the beginner's guide to jumping. If you think you're ready for it, you're confident on your bike, and you're thinking about sending it into the air, hopefully this video is going to help you out and give you some of the fundamentals for making sure, hopefully, it doesn't go wrong. Hopefully this video is going to give you a bit of a step-by-step guide on the skills you need to look at to make sure you're doing right, to make sure that, most importantly, you're influencing the bike in the air. So you're not just hitting a takeoff or a ramp and the bike is just doing whatever that jump is doing to it, because sometimes jumps aren't built perfectly or you don't hit them at the perfect speed, and therefore you need to do something to control your bike in the air. Let's start with looking at probably the most simple jump, which is what I call a fly off. And this is a jump where all you have is a takeoff. So this could be a grass bank, a curb, anything that you're just getting into the air off. And I've got a good example just over here. Whoa! Well, actually, that is quite a big fly off. So you might be able to see over the other side where I was just stood. It's quite a big bomb hole and you drop down and in, but it is super simple. Somebody has built a takeoff, but all it is, you know, some logs and a bit of dirt, and you just jump out of it, and it's a bit of a step up as well, which is nice, super safe, and you just land flat on top. So with this style of jump, you kind of don't have to do much, but it's a great way of getting comfortable with going into the air. So definitely a great style of jump to learn on, and really easy to make if you've got a nice big bomber hole like this. Super easy just to carve out a takeoff, but you really don't need much to do this. Like I said, it's great to bomb in and get that feeling of lifting into the air, and if you build it a nice shape, nice and mellow, no sort of steep transitions in it, then hopefully it'll send you into the air in a nice controlled manner. The only thing to look into is if you make them too sort of sharp and too low. See that quite a lot of people make their homemade wooden kickers. They make them too steep and too short, so it's really kicky. So what that does, it slows your bike down a bit as well, so you can really feel like your weight's going forward. For more tips on building jumps, Blake has just recently done that video on how to build a double. Maybe, well, definitely a bit more advanced than a fly off or a tabletop, which I'll talk about next, but it will give you definitely some things you need to know about how to build a proper jump. You might have seen in that video that I went quite fast that time, and it's super safe, but I did land quite heavy. So that is the one disadvantage of fly off jumps. You're going to take off, and because there's no landing to land into, you're landing on the flat, it can be quite a landing, so a bit heavy on the bike. You can learn to jump on any bike. A hardtail's great. In fact, sometimes they're even better for jumping because you don't have to work against your suspension. What I'd say is just make sure your bike's in good condition, because learning to jump, you can be quite heavy on it, so doing some heavy landings, you want to make sure things like your wheels are nicely tensioned up on the spokes, everything's nice and tight. Especially the back wheel, you could end up battering that a little bit. So definitely give your bike a good check over before you do this. And you can jump on any bike. However, I'd say bikes with shorter stems and wider bars are just more comfortable. So if you're on a cross-country bike with a big old stem and narrow bars, it's definitely not going to be as confidence inspiring. So, you know, most bikes are fine. A good hardtail is a great bike to start jumping on. When it comes to learning jumps, it's just the same as trying to learn anything basically. Repetition is key here. So there's lots of young riders, myself included, back in the day, that would go out and ride these places day in, day out. And it's that repetition that gets you good at jumping bikes. Right, so with a fly off, you really don't need to do much. We're not talking really about influencing the front and the back wheel yet. You're not really worried so much about landing two wheels at the same time. You're just jumping out of it. The thing that can go wrong here, and I'm sure people that have jumped have had this feeling, is when the bike starts going sideways in the air. So rather than up or down, it's the front wheel starts drifting away from you. And the bigger the jump is, the worse that can get, until you're landing so sideways that you just fall off the bike. You basically lost your balance. So the key to that is really using your weight to lift the bike into the air and not using your muscles. So you can often trace this back to people's manual technique. If they're trying to pull the front wheel up using their arms, they then use a similar technique on a jump. Basically, you don't get that pull perfectly, you don't judge it perfectly, and the bike can get away from you. So it goes back to practicing your manuals, which we'll do in a second. The other thing people get wrong is they sort of let the jump throw them and not them and the bike. So what happens then is people can start hovering off their pedals. If it feels like your weight's coming off the bike and off the pedals, that's dangerous, because I've definitely done this one back in there as well. You hover a bit and then you land and your foot steps off and whack, you whack your shin. So it's definitely trying to, keep the bike below you and not let the jump kick you off the bike. But first, let's go and look at now getting that sort of manual technique to influence the bike into the air in the correct way. Try to get your hips back and low. Your arms go straight and then the bars come back with you and the front wheel is in the air. There's a manual. With your arms straight, you're less likely to get the front wheel sideways and lose your balance. Then you can progress that into a bunny hop. If your hips are low, just stand up and towards the bars. Timing is key to get the pop. A common mistake is to try and muscle the bike up into the air. Whilst it can work, it isn't going to help you get the right timing on a jump, as both wheels almost come up together, or you just can't get much lift because you're bringing the bike up to you. So once you've got super comfortable with your fly off, you're getting into the air and you're keeping it straight, it's time to move it on to a tabletop jump. So this has got a takeoff, a flat section across top, tabletop, and downslope. Now this is key for getting bigger air because you've got something to land into, and that's going to be much smoother if you get it right than just jumping off, fly off and landing onto flat. But this is where you do now start to bring in some technique to influence what the bike is doing in the air, because you basically want the bike to follow the shape of this jump. Front wheel up and into the air, then back wheel, and then nice arc up and over and into that downslope. Almost imagine if this was a big pile of dirt and someone's cut the top off, you just follow that same shape of the dirt. The important thing with this is, again, to keep it nice and straight, but also now you're landing into a downslope, you need to land front wheel, then back wheel. So same as a takeoff, you don't want to take two wheels off at the same time, you go front, and then as the back wheel gets top, you go up and over. Same when you land, front wheel, then back wheel. Like I said before, if you hit a perfectly built jump, so perfect shape, nice and smooth, at the perfect speed, you're not going to have to do too much to the bike to get it over and land perfectly. However, most jumps aren't like that. And actually the best way to learn is to think about starting to slow it down a little bit. It's going to be safer, but also with less speed, you're going to have to start making some height to clear it. And that is something you're really going to need when it comes to doing bigger jumps. So slow it down and think about bringing something into this technique to take off. And that technique is what I've already talked about. It's trying to bring that bunny hop motion in. Now, you're not always going to need this. It's more of an exaggeration, like I've said already, to give you a bit more height. So the key to a good bunny hop is first to pump the bike. So that is a case of doing that in this transition from flat to up. Think about trying to squash the bike into the ground. You're trying to make it heavy. So you squash the bike in exactly at this right time. Get the timing right, it will feel right. It's a great thing about this. If you get the timing wrong, it should feel a bit weird. Get it right, it will feel nice and smooth. And then you're driving the front wheel up and into the air. Not a manual, you're just getting behind the bike a little bit, getting your weight slightly back, and that's gonna get that front wheel nice and up and into the air. Only when your back wheel gets to the top of the jump is when you stand up and finish that bunny hop motion off. That should give you a nice arc up and into the air. There you go, there's a few tips to help you out if you're just starting to get into the air, or at least you're thinking about starting to jump. Absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite things to do on a bike, is properly do some good big jumps. And again, it's all about repetition. You'll never learn this really, really quickly. Get outside, I'm sure there's some jumps around. If not, try and dig some in a spot that you're allowed to and just get to it. Once you've got that skill of making the bike go up into the air and you get better at it, you can really progress and do bigger and bigger jumps. It's the same skill. So if you are struggling with any of those skills, make sure you check out our playlist. We've got loads of how-to videos, particularly the manual and the bunny hop. Hopefully will help you out. And hope you're enjoying Get Riding Week. Plenty more to come.